Good morning, Meredith.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sitting in the back room of my shop because, because the shop's open. So here I am in St. Louis, well, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm going to introduce myself for those people who have just started watching the podcast. I'm Megan Holmes. I'm here at the Needlepoint Clubhouse, like I said, in suburban St. Louis. And together with my friend Melissa McLeod at the Wool and the Floss in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, we've been doing this thing that we call the Pointing It Out podcast for, we always stop and think. It's a little over a year now. It's, the last couple of years, as you know, have been insane. So for those people who are just joining us, we do this podcast that is all about needlepoint. And I am thrilled and kind of starstruck to have Meredith Willett, who is the Meredith of the Meredith Collection. Is that right, Meredith?
That's right.
I said all those things correctly.
You got it right. Yeah.
I mean, I think the truth is that there are so many titles that you hold. Teacher, owner, now frame shop owner, wholesale distributor, and just all around cool chick. So why don't we start at the top? Is that cool? So Meredith, you have been in the industry as either a stitcher or a teacher or an owner for how many years now? We can kind of pretend if you just want to generalize.
I know. I opened my retail store when I was 27 years old.
No way.
I did.
I was such a dope when I was 27 years old. You have been a real wise woman, ready with documents.
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. And I just wanted to be a part of it. So, I just struck out. And, at that point, when I was 27, 32 years ago, there was no internet where I could go type in, how do I open a needlepoint store? Right. So I just kind of did it from just the hair of my chin.
So let's back up really quickly. When did you start needlepointing?
I started needlepointing and doing embroidery when I was 6 years old.
Oh my gosh. And you were taught by who? My
best friend's mother.
Oh.
She did everything. And I was always at their house with my nose in her business.
Sure.
Because she was a basket maker. She did embroidery. She did heirloom sewing and quilting and needlepoint. And I just always was bright-eyed looking to see what she was up to because I loved that whole concept.
And where was this? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Versailles, not to be mistaken with Versailles, but in Versailles, Kentucky, right outside of Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay. So you sort of knew that you were interested in the craft. This friend of yours, mother, took you under her wing and taught you how to stitch. And obviously you probably intermediately spent time stitching because as a first grader or second grader, as it were, you didn't have a lot of time to stitch, right?
Well, believe it or not, I was just enamored by the whole embroidery thing. And she had told me to get a pillowcase and we had the little iron-on transfers.
Oh yeah.
I just love those little iron-on transfers.
Yes.
So I covered a pillowcase front and back with all these little transfers. And so I embroidered from 6 anytime I could do that. My girlfriend and I would sit down and we'd do our embroidery and she would teach us chain stitch and outline stitch and French knots. And we just had a blast and I just worked on it. I covered it front and back. And Megan, when I opened my needlepoint store when I was 27 years old, way back when, my mother gave me that pillowcase. I had no idea that she had kept that.
Do you still have it now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that.
Front and back, it's covered. And it's funny because I remember every little character and every little flower. And I remember.
And at the time you were probably using like a floss, right? Like a DMC floss.
Embroidery floss, yes.
Sure. So you develop this love, you stitch and you stitch and you stitch. What happens between the time when you're 27 and you've learned how to, so do you go to college? Do you
Yes.
stitch?
So I did, when I got to high school, the whole rage was needlepoint belts. So
Oh yeah.
I started needlepointing belts, and my science teacher was a big stitcher, and she would, she was showing me how to needlepoint. And my sister Lisa,
Okay.
she also taught me how to do like the binding stitch and how to needlepoint. So there was quite a few people that were helping me along the way. So I did that all through high school. And then when I got into college, they were doing antique reproduction samplers.
Okay. Okay.
So I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And that was really fun to me. So we worked on our samplers.
So, so you graduate with what type of a degree?
Well, I didn't. I can't believe it. I left 3 years in because I just didn't.
Wasn't your jam?
Well, I couldn't figure out where I wanted to go. So
Okay.
I was studying art history
Okay.
and child psychology, believe it or not. And so that was kind of an interesting, but I never could figure out what kind of a degree I needed to get to do something with that.
Sure.
So
well, my point in asking that was not to shame you into the fact that you didn't finish your degree, but to figure out sort of what did you study? So you did go and study art, and then did you have a job between the time when you opened your shop? Did you have any sort of have the your wings and try things?
I know. I don't know how I ended up, but I ended up in the hotel business. So
hospitality, sure.
Yep. So I ended up doing catering and not individual, but catering department through the hotels. And I loved that. It was great fun. And where I met my husband the first time around, we were just friends the first when we met, when we were at the Hyatt. And then we met way later on after I had my daughter and I divorced. And so I met up with him again. I was like, well, he's awful cute. Maybe I should rethink that.
And I don't want to digress too far from where we're at here with your needlepoint journey, but really quickly, for those people who some people probably know and some people probably don't know, your husband really struggled with a serious case of COVID and was really battling for his life. So tell us, how is he doing now?
He really is doing much better. He had a lot of kidney problems along the way, which caused a lot, but he was in the hospital for about 77 days. He was released from the hospital. He was home for 4 days, and then he started having heart issues. So we went back for a quadruple bypass. And then because he was on his back for so long, his arthritis set in on his hip. So 6 weeks later, we had a hip replacement. So, but he's recovering well. He's doing well. His kidneys are slowly coming back. He's not on dialysis anymore, which is really quite a miracle. So we're really, really grateful and thankful. So I'm pretty protective of, him and when he gets out and about and
sure.
Mask on.
Well, we're glad to hear that he's on that. Sounds like, I would say, more than the road to recovery. It sounds like he's really had quite a recovery journey and that he's doing well. So thanks for the update.
Yes, thank you for asking.
Of course. So you meet your husband in the hospitality industry, but you go on to do what after? So you're in hospitality until you open your shop?
Yes, and I was working a lot of hours, and at Christmas time, of course, when everyone's having their parties, and I was like, I just can't work this hard for somebody else and not do something that I love doing and I've loved doing all my life. And I told my husband at that time I really wanted to open up a needlepoint store, and he was like, really? Okay, let's do it.
Lexington at this point?
I was living in Lexington. When I went to school in Bowling Green at Western Kentucky University, and then when I came home, I came to Lexington, stayed in Lexington. So yeah, it was quite a journey to get to where I was and finding information about how to even open up a needlepoint store.
Sure.
But I did have some help, and I'm grateful for her for helping me. And sorry, we might have a little ring here for a second.
No worries.
But you know, it has been the most amazing journey for me.
So so first of all, did you call it M's Canvas House when you started?
So that's my retail store. Yep. It's
Okay.
my mom. My mom named it. And don't ever, here, note to self, don't ever name a business with an apostrophe.
Oh,
Who knew it
no,
would be
especially when you
so-
get into.
Who knew it would be so hard? But it's a difficult, it's a weird place to put you in the alphabet.
That's never occurred to me, but also when you're buying a domain name, et cetera, that I can see how that would be a problem. So it's M's Canvas House. You're in Lexington, and your mom named it. And I just lost my train of thought. Oh, what I wanted to ask was, who were those people that were sort of your kind of the people you looked to? What other shops were open at the time?
There was a local store that was open. But
I'm wondering, like, if Amy Bunger would have been like a person that was in the industry at the time with her shop, or who else would have been kind of around?
actually, Amy Bunker and I met going to our very first market. together.
Okay, I was wondering if she might have been kind of around your.
Yeah, she had a shop, I believe, in Paducah, Kentucky for a while. And then she moved to Memphis, and we were actually on the van, I think from the airport to the hotel, and we were talking.
Cool.
And she was opening her store, and I was opening my store. And, you know, we were by far the youngest, by far, because most of the people in the industry were a little older than, 26, and Amy's just a little hair older than me, I think, but not by much. And so, we were really, really young.
So was that a TNNA show then? Would that have?
Oh yes, that was a TNNA show, and we went to, I believe that was in Chicago at the time.
Okay.
Those were the best. Those were the best markets because they were gigantic and things were different. Everybody, there were tons and tons and tons of vendors, and it was just really exciting times.
Yeah, I bet. So you get the store going. Are you able to collect a couple of employees then, or were you kind of a one-woman show for a while?
Oh yeah, I was a one-woman show, and then I got pregnant.
So then you were almost a two-woman show.
So my daughter came the following December after I opened, and she spent a little time at the shop in the little carrier, and so that was fun, and it was kind of quiet. But quickly, my shop became really busy, so I was unable to bring her anymore and started having to hire some employees. So I did have some part-time people coming and helping me.
That's good. So M's Canvas House starts, you start rolling this retail business. So at what point do you begin to, I don't know what comes next. So does a wholesale line, I mean, if for people who don't know, Meredith has a wholesale line, a frame shop, a retail shop, teaching, there's so many pieces. So help me put these next few pieces together.
I know that there are a lot of parts.
It's amazing.
Well, it's been so good to me, and I have loved, every single bit of it. So what happens next is there was a little company in Lexington called Designer Belts Unlimited.
Okay.
Okay.
I still see those tags that say designer belts sometimes.
Yep. And so Designer Belts Unlimited, but they weren't only belts. There was a lot more to the company. And there were two ladies who owned the store, and they had purchased Elizabeth Turner in Louisville. They purchased the retail store and her wholesale business. So they're trying to combine all these things in Lexington. Okay, so one of them gets divorced and the other one hires one of their employees. So there's still two. And then the other one gets divorced and the other one says, I don't want the retail store in Louisville. Let's close that down. Brings everything to Lexington. And then they call me and say, would you be interested and buying into the wholesale business. And I sold lots and lots and lots of belts. So I was like, I'm in. But couple things, we need to move it out of a basement and put it in a better location. And we need to change the name. So that's when we changed the name from Designer Belts Unlimited to Elizabeth Turner Collection, because there are two owners, see, so I couldn't call it the Meredith Collection. So we ran it like that for about maybe 4 years. And then my business partner wanted to do something else. She was having grandchildren and wanted to do that. So I bought her out, and voila, I changed it to the Meredith Collection, because it was just, people would call me and go, is Elizabeth there? Oh, she's in a nursing home in Louisville. So, but there really was an Elizabeth Turner, and she did a lot of designs. Like, she started the purses and the shoes, which was really cool, and a long time ago, like early 70s. And the company just was growing and growing, and we were changing and changing, and I felt like that it really needed a fresh new start, look, and a cleanup.
So where are we like year wise? Are we in like?
I know, it's all so crazy, because it's been 32 years ago, I would have never dreamed.
So are we in like the early 2000s when this?
Yes, I think it was 1998, I think, when I bought Carol out.
Sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm trying to contextualize, like, so you are running this wholesale line, and are you using offshore painters at that time? Is that what, like, the reproductions?
There really were not offshore painters.
That's what I was wondering about. Okay. So these were happening locally, or at least stateside.
Right. Okay. And we had, at that time, we probably had 10 or 11,000 designs.
Oh my gosh. So your line starts, the Meredith Collection, which, by the way, I have to tell you, maybe I mentioned this to you, but yesterday someone said, oh, what are you doing on the podcast this week? And I said, I'm talking with Meredith Willett, and I'm really excited about it. And they were like, who's that? And I said, this was a younger woman. And I said, that's the Meredith Collection. She goes, there's a Meredith? I was like, isn't it cool? So I thought you'd think that was cute. But so that's the original point. So Elizabeth Turner is really the beginning, like sort of the base of the Meredith Collection. Am I right about that? And
yes. And Designer Belts. They kind of ran.
Got you. Okay.
They ran parallel,
So that's the beginning of your
the Lexington girls owned this company, and Elizabeth Turner owned this company, and they combined them.
Got you. Okay. So you're dealing with 10. Did you just say 10,000? Is that right?
Well, then I bought Treglon Designs.
Oh my gosh. And I wrote that down here because I tried to come up with all of the pieces that you were. Meredith, did you have a warehouse? How are you dealing with all that?
I know. Well, we were in like sardines I was in a little cute, adorable, long shotgun house brick building on the corner of Kentucky in downtown Lexington, and we were just hot. To get somewhere, you had to move a box. Oh. It was awful. And it was more and more all the time. But then I said, I'm going to buy, Treglon, and we're going to try to, fit this in. And one of my employees had all the Treglon designs in her house. So anytime we get an order, she'd have to bring it the next day. It was kind of crazy because we had so much going on. Anyway, to make a long story short, I did buy a building 1.5 miles away from my old store. Thank goodness, it's all on one floor, which was really important for us, is lifting all those trunks up and down for trunk shows.
Right.
And then we have room. So we went from 2,500 maybe space to 6,000 square feet.
Currently, or this was the next step?
Now. Yeah, now we've got 6,000 square feet. And so we've got room for Charlie Harper, and because I have the rights to Charlie Harper in anything in needlework.
So I want to talk about that in a second, because that's a big bullet point on my notes here. But so you start to kind of collect these wholesale lines.
Right.
What point is the teaching? Because that was I know that now you might be stepping away slightly from that just because of wanting to be at home and things, but the traveling and the teaching is a chunk that's in there that we haven't talked about yet. So when does
it is. And I tell you, here's the honest to goodness truth. You're only as good as the people that work for you.
Oh, amen. Amen. 100%.
The girls here are so amazing, and they're smart, and they're reliable, and I could not do everything that I do without them. So we're up to 25 employees now, which is crazy with the frame shop. 26 employees now with the frame shop. So the Meredith Collection, the South Hill Gallery, and also M's Canvas House, and everybody's they just
do.
I know, it's
how I feel too. I feel that way too, but I always say things to my staff, like, I just feel so lucky to have collected all these cool people along the way. And it sounds to me like that your life just sort of fit into that place too. You just kind of collected people, and my guess is they've stuck with you too. And that's important.
Oh yeah, long term. I've lost a few people along the way, from either retirement or passing away. But one of my employees who passed away, she had lung cancer, never smoked a day in her life. She worked for me for over 17 years. So I've got some long-term employees. Donna, Susan, they're all 10, 12, 14 years. Yeah, Nancy's what we call our longest employee now. And I think she's getting close to 16 years. And, but you know, they are a blessing to me. So yes, I did teach along the way. One year I taught so much, Megan, I was gone 300 days. I was so tired when I got home.
Travel agent, a flight attendant, like just never home, right?
Never home. I mean, I would come home. My husband would like throw me in the bed. I'd get home late. So he'd say, "All right, get to bed," and then he'd do my laundry for me. And then in the morning we'd pack it all up and boom, off on another flight. It was a little crazy, but I do love traveling and seeing these people because they're so much fun and they're so excited about learning new stuff. And
so tell me, so at the beginning of the travel and things, so did you just say to yourself, I'm going to go teach some needlepoint, or did somebody say, "Hey, Meredith, I think you're so great, I want you to come here"? Like, how did that start?
I started designing some of my own patterns, not really hand painted, more of an outline drawing. And then I would do, like, here's an example. One of the pieces that I do, and it's been a great success, is it's a sampler with lots of different stitches on it. It's really modern sampler. And the whole thing is all about couching and diaper patterns. Couching patterns and diaper patterns.
Interesting.
Do you know what diaper patterns are?
I was about to say, there are a lot of things I know, but that is fun. And I wasn't sure if I should embarrass myself or wait. I know what couching is. I do not know what diaper is. Tell me.
Okay, well, it's really cool. It's super easy. But there's a lot of information about diaper patterns. But actually, the word diaper came way before a diaper that you put a baby in.
Hoping so.
Yep. And so in architectural designs from years and years ago, it was a pattern that had no direction. So when you look at a pattern like diamonds, let's say, all diamonds, that's more of a diaper pattern because you don't visually see a diagonal line or a horizontal line or any kind of a line. So this whole sampler was all about diaper patterns. And so for the class, it's a 2-day class that I teach, and everything on it has a purpose. So I would say, okay, now this diaper pattern is a diaper pattern because, we do this to it after we have stitched the pattern in, and then we couch something on top or, whatever. So it was just a super great learning piece, but it's also really attractive. And
So how did you educate yourself about diaper patterns? Like, where did you?
Oh my gosh, I wish I could show you my library. I have over 500 or 600 books in my library.
And so now I'm really fascinated by this. So we're going to deep dive. So are these like Royal School type of educators, like, or are we like, where are we getting this?
Everything. Of course, I've taken classes at the Royal School too, which has really been, fun and entertaining. And I have just, most of the time when if I have a book in my hands, it's not a
novel. Fiction read.
It's a book about history of needlework or embroidery stitches or ribbon embroidery or anything I can get my hands on. So I started collecting books when I first started, and I just couldn't stop. I just kept going. So when we rebuilt this building, I bought it and it was a mess. We gutted it and redid it. I had in my classroom is a long, huge wall with all my books. Just
wow.
Everything about Elizabethan embroidery, about stump work, about cross stitch, and I've got knitting and ecclesiastical. I've got just everything I can. Bargello. I've got everything that I can get my hands on because I want to know more too.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm only as good as my students, and a lot of them they know what I know. So I got to keep learning and learning all the time.
That's fascinating. I think you might be the first person I've talked with who really is interested in the depth of the historical knowledge of this craft. And I think that's so important because, I have a quilt from my family that was, I think, in the corner, it's hand embroidered 1929 or something, and it's like these people, embroidery was also served a purpose that you needed on things you needed, but very cool. I love the old, 1920 isn't that old, but you're doing like 17th, 18th century kind of research, which is very
well. And I've learned a lot because I travel some with Philippa Turnbull on the Crewel Work Company tours. I think all the ones that we've been in a bus and on the go, I've been with Philippa, and I think it's been about 11 years since we've been doing that.
Say what it was again. I think you cut out for a second. It's
Philippa Turnbull, and she owns the Crewel Work Company.
Yes. Okay.
And she's from Appleby, England, and she does these tours. And of course, we haven't been able to do anything for the last 2 years, which has kind of been terrible. But we travel and we visit places where a lot of the places that we go, you can't normally get into. Like we've seen a 17th century stump work box that is kind of been stowed away, and still sitting in their house with a plastic box around, but it's not like in somebody's, it's not in a museum.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But then and then in that bedroom, we also saw these amazing Crewel Work curtains, bedding, just beautiful, and the history. And we learn about color and why color plays a huge part in history of needlework. And it's just fascinating. And
love it.
I know. And so she has taught me so much along the way about the history. And so I've, of course, gotten books along the way too, to help, learn more and more as I can.
Wow. That's amazing. I did not know this part of you, I guess.
I know it's complicated.
Fascinating, not complicated. But so the piece that I do know, and maybe it's just because I'm younger in the industry, is that you did this kind of tour with a couple of other teachers. So, and you all, I think there was a name for you. Can you tell us? I think that's how the people met you stateside. with that.
Yeah. So there we were at one time the Fab Four, and it was Tony Maneri and me and Suzanne Howren and Beth Robertson. And unfortunately, Beth Robertson passed away from ovarian cancer. So you'll get that checked, girls. It's an easy thing to get checked because there's no warning signs of it. So anyway, we then became the Embellishment Squad. And I know it's so much fun. And what we do is we get a group of people together, and this coming class, which next, the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th of October is here at my shop in Lexington. Yeah, so we've got that coming up, which is exciting. And so there's 30 students, and each day, 10 students get a different teacher. So it's really fun. And so we pass around and we give them different stitches, and it's kind of loud. It's really so fun. It's kind of loud because I'll say, Suzanne, show me how to do this. And Tony will say, Meredith, what did you use when you did that? And, so we're shouting back and forth, and people are excited and looking over each other's shoulder and learning a different technique. So it's really,
I want to give some people some context. So I think it was probably 6 or 9 months ago now, but I interviewed Suzanne and because of the Stitches to Go book. So I think Stitches to Go, in my opinion, is like this awesome book that everyone should have, because it's to me, it's sort of the baseline. But I don't think that people know that Suzanne fits into your Fab Four. So just to give people context, that Suzanne and Beth wrote that book together.
Right.
Suzanne's part of your Embellishment Squad, which is so special. And what I think is funny is that the three of you have such different personalities. And so but all kind of spunky, so I can just kind of hear you all in a room together. I would like to just be a fly on the wall. Let's just say that.
It is really quite fun. And I want to say too that Beth Robertson and I wrote a book together.
Yes.
Knots, fur, and turkey work.
Yes. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that.
That's okay. And it's
available. Pieces here, Meredith.
It's an Apple app, but I've been thinking, don't tell anybody. I've been thinking about printing that again. But when Beth passed away, I just couldn't do it. It was too painful. Mm-hmm. And so maybe in the future we might do that again. But I do, on my app, I want to add more stitches because I've got more things I want to add.
I think that sounds great. And there's a lot of purists out there, including me, who like paper. So, yeah. I have to tell you a really quick story that I think everyone might enjoy. So I don't know if you remember this, but remember when we had, I think it was TNNA in Vegas. Remember when maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago, we were in Vegas. And I signed up for a class, and I was like, oh my gosh, Meredith Willet's teaching a class. I've got to take this class, but I'm intimidated because, I'm not as long in the needlepoint stitching world as you and the Fab Four, and so I'm a little intimidated, and I'm like, I'm just going to slip in the back, and I'm going to try to glean as much information as I can, and I'm going to let those really good stitchers sit in the front and let them ask all the questions, and I'm just going to learn, and I'm just going to be in the same room with Meredith. This is going to be so cool. So I slip in the back. I have my little thing. I'm ready to go. I look over. Tony Maneri's sitting next to me. I almost threw up. I was so nervous. I was like, you've got to. Here I am, just trying to be this little student in the back. And Tony, like the king of all things stitching, is sitting next to me. So I just tried to but I will say at one point during that class, I don't know if you remember this, it was the Charlie Harper, the nest with the red bird and the little worm I think he has in his mouth. And at one point, I think Tony looked over and said, oh, that looks good. And I was like, oh my God, I've arrived. Oh, but anyway, you're awesome. A brilliant teacher. And I really enjoyed that class. And so I hope that you are able to continue doing these classes. And I hope maybe you'll come see us here sometime. But that leads me to, I hope you don't mind, because I'm going to make a quick turn. Okay. Harper. So I think that this whole Charlie Harper piece of your business is fascinating. I've done some research on Charlie Harper, and obviously you have too. So for those people who don't know, Charlie Harper was a
mid-century modern artist.
Okay. And wasn't he published his cartooning or
A lot.
That's
A
what.
lot. Yes.
So he's really a quite famous mid-century. This is not just a random guy whose art you liked. So he's out there. He's a big deal. And so, again, how does this whole thing come to a point or come
Let
to
me,
you?
I do want to say this because I was in Scotland at the National Scottish Museum, and I was in the gift store and I walked over and there's all kinds of Charlie Harper, like note
Really?
cards and umbrellas. And I was like, oh, wow, they must have something Charlie Harper here. So I think they've got it in the archives, but there must be something there for that. So
In
he really,
Scotland.
yes, in Scotland. He illustrated cookbooks. He illustrated books about Ohio. He illustrated a book that's written in, I don't even know how many languages. It's about biology. It's very hard to get your hands on it. And I have one, and the only way I could get it was in Spanish. I can't read it, but I can see the
Well,
pictures.
you have it, girl. You have it. And it's in your library. So go
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and he does children books, and of course, almost everybody knows his puzzles. But years ago, he gave the rights to two ladies, his needlework, and they sold. And I don't remember that. That was kind of before me. And the next thing these two ladies sold it to the Treglon family. So if you've been in the business any length of time, this Sue Treglon was one of the oldest, biggest designers in our industry, and she was this first major only stitch painter. All of her stuff was stitch painted, everything.
Wow.
And it was fun. It was really fun to buy her things. She did samplers and geometrics. She did a lot of things. And she also was one of the very first person to hire artists to use their designs, or pay artists to
So
use
like
their
license.
design. Yeah, license their work. So Charlie Harper, then she gets. So to make a long story short, after her daughter-in-law got the company for just a little while, and then I got it from them. But I have loved it. It has been so much fun, and you can tell where my designs, all the designs that we have put in the line, changed, because the designs were CH, and then they go to HC, which is just where the owner changed. So that was Sue Treglon. She changed it to HC, and then shortly after that, I picked up and took over, and I think we've done, I don't know, over 400 designs. Now, it's funny because the conversation is, well, he's dead, so you're not going to get many new things. Wrong. He was so prolific. I have gone to the archives of Charlie Harper's son.
I knew this story. I think it's fascinating.
Harper. Yeah, Brett Harper is still alive. And I've gone to the archives, and after hundreds of cabinets full of designs that they have, paper drawings and, oils, and I mean, everything. And I've gone through one cabinet and I'm like, okay, that's enough. I can't do anymore. Let me work on these, and then I'll go through another cabinet. I'm not sure in my lifetime I could put all the designs out. I just am not sure I could. There's so many.
So really, it sounds like it was Sue Treglon. Is that how you say it? Treglon?
Yeah.
Who gets the credit for sort of
Yeah.
choosing to bring this particular art to needlepoint. And what I think so fabulous about it is it's perfect for embellishment, because there's a lot of wide spaces, very simple lines and geometric shapes, and it's so perfect. And there's something for everyone in that line. So for those people who aren't familiar with it, you should really check it out. Meredith has a great website that has things by artist. So you could look at all the Charlie Harper stuff on its own, but it's fascinating. And I think you've done a great job of taking pieces to make ornaments and parts to do, it's just a really, really cool line. And you all showcase it separately. So like, for example, when we get a trunk show, we can get the Charlie Harper trunk show. And because like you said, there's so much.
Yeah, we're up to now about 22,000 designs.
Wow.
And we don't even show everything on the website because there is so much available and out there. So we just kind of rotate them around.
So who is there a person who takes the Charlie Harper work and translates it to needlepoint canvas? Do you have an artist that does that, or do you do it? Or
yes, this is such a fun story. Sue Treglon still does it.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
And she is just so nice and kind. And I just love her to pieces. And she lives in California, but she still does some work for us. And I think it's good because in her retirement, it keeps her busy. And so when those new posters pop out, you can say, yay, yay, Charlie Harper, and yay, yay, Sue Treglon.
Ooh, that's exactly right.
Get them on canvas, because it's a big job to get those designs on canvas. It's a lot of work.
It's a big job to do it, but it's also a big job to respect the artistry and be able to translate it appropriately. And I particularly for someone as well known as Charlie Harper, the artwork is so well known. So that's very cool. I didn't know that. That's
anytime that like Suzanne and Tony and I are teaching and we get a Charlie Harper, we're like, yay, because they are so much fun to write stitch guides for, because of allowing that space instead of a lot of things having teeny tiny amounts of space.
For sure. So lastly, because I don't even know how long we've been talking. You're one of the most fascinating people I've ever talked to.
Oh, that's so nice.
You're so sweet. So then at what point, or maybe we've already passed it, does your own ideas or the Meredith, because there are Meredith Collection designs that kind of, I guess, interdispersed between all of the buying of all these other lines. And so I know you have an in-house painter or a designer, I guess.
Yes. And most everybody in our industry knows Donna. She's amazing.
I wondered if we can mention her. I love Donna. She's awesome.
Oh yeah, she's great. And she's running a marathon today.
Go Donna.
Not me. And she's a vegan. So she eats nothing, and she's cute and blonde and skinny and anyway,
also nice.
And we
talented.
Yes, she's really nice and talented, and we still love her.
Exactly.
But so she designs the new things. So I might say to Donna, let's do a series of, whatever, and she'll go, okay, and then boom, it's done.
So one that I love that you do so well, and I don't know whose brainchild this was, but it's the feet. So it's the feet of the witch, it's the feet of Santa, it's the feet of the football player, soccer player. Those are darling. I think there's a werewolf, and there's
there's a lot.
It just goes on and on. Those are so darling. But
hikers and tennis players and football players and basketball players. Yeah, they're really cute. And that was Donna's brainchild. And I don't even know how we got that start. Oh, I know how we got it started. So, you can't really do the Wizard of Oz copywritten, right? So, and I wanted to do kind of a little fun, something similar. So we kind of have the Wizard of Oz like feet. It's the like feet, not exactly.
This kind of looks like Dorothy.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Dorothy.
With some red shoes. A girl with red shoes.
A girl with red shoes. But anyway, they're really cute. And she did, and it just exploded, to be honest. And we did Santa and Mrs. Claus, and it's really cute. They are really adorable.
It's darling. So that's something I think about when I think of the Meredith Collection. But your line is impressive. And then you went and so I think it was maybe even 9 months or more. And I contacted you and I said, hey, Meredith, I want to get you on the podcast. And you're like, but girl, I just bought a frame shop. And I was like, you did what? Are you kidding me? So now you have a frame shop. You also do, I think you do in-house leather finishing.
We do.
So is it belts, purses still?
But yeah, they're not. So we don't have enough room, and I don't want to hear the noise of the in the
sewing machines.
Yeah, sewing machines and little pieces of but our leather finisher is actually local, and he comes and gets the work and then takes it to his little garage where he does all the purses and things and belts and whatever, and brings them back to us. So that works out because I don't know if I could add sewing machines to the mix.
Well, you've got hammering, and tacking, and whatever else they need to do framing now. So
Yeah.
get going.
Well, that's a different location, so
Oh, okay.
it's not here. So unbelievably enough, when I bought this building where we are now, it's kind of a different location for high-end retail is what I'm going to call Needlepoint. And but the frame shop just happens to be literally, I could walk there in about
Yay.
5 minutes. And eventually we'd like to bring it over here and it be a part of this piece of property, on this piece of property, because we've got about 1.5 acres of land. So we'll be able to build a place for the frame shop.
Wow.
But I know it's really exciting. And
I want to be Meredith when I grow up.
I mean, I love the whole framing thing. It's very creative. It's been a fun ad. It's been a lot harder than I expected, but I knew that was going to come. I knew that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
But it has been really enjoyable. I've loved it, and I've loved getting to know the people that are all there. It's been fun.
Very cool. So I'm scared to ask, is there anything else in your bag of tricks that you would like to add or that you have your eye on? Or have you kind of tapped out your mental capacity?
I'll never say I'm tapped out, because that is one thing about me that probably my family and closest friends know. I love to work. I love working because I love what I do every single day. And well, not every single day. There are days, trust me, there are days. But there's a couple of needlepoint canvas vendors I have my eye on, that if they ever decide they want to retire, and they know who they are. So I'm hopefully the first on the list for a couple of them. But not yet. I might have to enlarge this building.
That's the truth.
I know.
And I just want to mention this too, that your daughter is now working for you as well. Is that right?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Isn't that lovely?
Nobody can know, because she is absolutely the joy of my life, and I just love having her here with me. And she's so funny. And if you ask Susan about her, when you call sometime about how funny she is, she's just a scream. She entertains us all. But my husband also, when he is in full recovery, is going to be working at the frame shop. So, yep, I'm going to put him to work over there. Yep. And
it's the Willett. Well, your daughter isn't probably a Willett, but it's the Willett team. Family. I like
it's the family. Yeah. So, and it's fun because, Jeff is really nice. He's super personable. And I may just put him out on the street, get him to drum up some commercial business, because he's so great at that. But he knows everybody. All of his buddies call him the mayor, because he's just like Mr. Social Butterfly. So
well, and you and I talked briefly about this, but people ask, so are you related to it's bourbon, right? The Willett bourbon?
Willett bourbon, yes, we are. We're not directly, unfortunately, we're not directly part of that family. Darn it. I would buy into the Willett bourbon distillery if I could, but the Willett family we are related to them, and my husband's, I think this is right, it's my husband's great grandfather's brother's family that own the distillery, that reopened the distillery.
Very cool.
Yeah, so, but it's cool.
So at least we know that he's not he's not so involved with another business that he doesn't have time for yours. I guess that's the point.
Exactly.
He has plenty of time to work for you once he's in full recovery. So that's good. And he's not tasting too much bourbon, although I'm sure it's
Oh, no, no. Not now, not right now. We got to get those kidneys doing better. So
You got it. Well, Meredith, we've had such a nice conversation. Is there anything that I haven't, I had a list of things I wanted to ask you about, and you're just such a fascinating person. Is there anything I've forgotten that you want to tell us about? I know you're a dog lover because I've seen lots of pictures of pups.
So, yes, I have 5 dogs and a cat.
I love that.
My husband and I both were on the board of directors for the Humane Society in Lexington, and help raise money for those little babies. And that's a really huge part of our life and our love. I can tell you this, I did purchase, when we moved to this building, I purchased a hot pink convertible Volkswagen Bug.
Stop it.
And I just love that little car, and I drive it everywhere. And but it's not been in the rain, so if it's rain and forecast, I don't drive it. So, but I do love pink, and so I wanted it for breast cancer. So I've got a breast cancer plate on there. So my sister, who's a survivor of breast cancer, she can drive it in the parade. And then
fun.
pink is my logo for all of my businesses. So, I just felt like that it was a good thing to have. And it's needlepoint is on the license plate.
Mine is too. Wait, what does it actually say? NEEDLE? No, it wouldn't.
No, it says NDLPT.
That's me too. Yay.
Oh my gosh. In Kentucky.
We're gonna start. I'm Missouri, so I've got Missouri. You've got Kentucky. We're gonna start a club. We're gonna find who has the NDLPT plates.
Okay, we have to get that out there in the world because that is going to be really fun.
I love that. I did not know that. I'm so happy to know that we have matching plates.
Yeah, that is about the only really super exciting thing that I can think of about.
I wish I wore some pink. I did think about you as the pink lady, but thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a giant champion of needlepoint and needlecraft in the world. And I don't know what else to say. I'm just totally fascinated and awestruck by you. I think you're amazing. So this is going to drop on a Saturday. So for those of you who have just joined us for the first time, I hope you've really enjoyed your time with Meredith because she's amazing. And if you want to stick around and get more information about our podcast, you'll just hit the subscribe button there on YouTube, and you will get you'll get more scoop on what we're doing over here. So Meredith, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you. Hopefully sometime very soon. And darn it, I wish I could be in that embellishment class, but I'm sure it's full. So
maybe next time.
Maybe next time. You got it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.